Alright then, let's talk about just how well money works as a leverage when it comes to attracting women. We're also going to be discussing just how well it compares against other forms of leverage like looks and status. As always, this is all going to be based primarily on evolutionary psychology. By the end of this video, you're going to have a very firm understanding of just what women are hardwired to respond to the most, and more specifically to what varying degrees. Are you ready? Let's go. Before we start talking about money specifically, we have to remember something about what it is women are hardwired to look out for in men for their own evolutionary benefit. That is the fact that what women find attractive in men, evolutionarily speaking, is power. Fundamentally, the most attractive trait a man can have is power. Power, by definition, is the dynamic ability to cause and affect changes at will. And anyone or anything that has power has the ability to use that power to affect changes that they want in both the environment they're in and the people within it. Especially power over others, because evolutionarily speaking, that means you can get others to cooperate with you. Don't forget, humans are primarily a collaborative species, so cooperation from one another is paramount for our survival. You can make things happen the way you want them to happen, when you want them to happen, and how you specifically want them to happen, then you are powerful. Now the question becomes, why do women find that so attractive? Well, you have to remember that from an evolutionary point of view, the whole reason women align themselves with men to begin with is to increase their own chances of survival. And what better way to increase your chances of survival than aligning yourself with the man who has influence over both the other people within an environment and the environment itself? That is why throughout history, women have always been drawn to men with power. Listen to what I said though. It's not just you wielding the power that gets them aroused. It's also the fact of what you wielding the power means for their own survival and safety. Now, by its very design, power is an abstract concept. It's not real. It's not tangible. You can't feel or touch it. You can only identify it by looking out for its symptoms, signs, and symbols. Naturally, since humans and civilization as a whole has rapidly evolved over time, the way power is manifested has also changed dramatically. Back in the good old days, power was demonstrated in your hunting ability and your ability to gather scarce and hard to find resources, and your ability to lead your own hunting platoon and come back with amazing catch. Nowadays though, power looks very different, and that's where money comes in. Money is essentially a modern day form of power because of its ability to get others to cooperate with you. You see, back in the day before money was invented, people traded by barter in order to exchange value. But it was a time-consuming, tedious, overly complicated process because no one could agree on what the value of anything was. And even more importantly, no one could agree on how to measure the value of anything, which would make the comparison of value between anything impossible. So money was invented, as far as historians know, around 3000 BC in Mesopotamia, as a way to represent and quantify actual use value. Or in other words, money is the clever way we've come up with as human beings to dumb down use value to numerical figures, which makes it easy to count and measure the value of anything, which as a result means it's easier to exchange value. Ultimately, money isn't real, but we know that it represents value and we attribute value to it, so we treat it like it's real. And as a result, whether we choose to admit it or not, we hold those who have a lot of money in high regard. Like I just explained, money is the consequence of exchanging value. When value is exchanged, money is the end result. And all a value exchange is a form of cooperation between two people. So having a lot of money is essentially proof that you can get others to cooperate with you. And again, because money represents value, having money is an indicator that you have the ability to get cooperation from others in the future. I personally call money compliance points because that's essentially what they are. Now, I'm sure you can see just how fun and useful money is. It's very important. But like all things, there's another side to it. It does have a few hangups. The first is that money is essentially a shortcut for compliance, or a lazy way to get people to do what you want them to do. Now you might be wondering, why is that a bad thing? Short answer, human behavioral psychology. You see, when you use money to motivate people's behavior, there are two very interesting things that happen. The first is that you show a complete lack of curiosity in that person's self-interest. The beauty of all forms of value exchange is that you must understand the values of the other person in order to know how to exchange value with them. When you bring money into the picture, you're essentially saying with your actions, I don't care about your self-interest. I'm just going to use this universal shortcut to give you what you want, without actually taking my time out to really understand what it is you want. Now, that unfeeling approach actually works perfect for most value exchanges. But when what you want requires some kind of evolutionary or biological sacrifice on the part of the other person, then money becomes just about the worst way to motivate someone. Because you're essentially showing them that you're not willing to make the sacrifices that you're asking of them. And as far as human behavioral psychology is concerned, people only make sacrifices for those who they believe are willing to do the same for them. So summary of the first point, money makes things super impersonal and makes you appear lazy. And the second point is that because of the existence of the first point, money turns out to be a terrible way to motivate people into action. The more people know you don't care about their self-interest, the less they care about yours. Simple as that. Another terrible thing about money is that it robs people of their independence and creativity, which automatically make you appear unattractive to women. The worst part about leading with money when it comes to women is how it signals to them that you have no other forms of leverage or power, which automatically makes you less impactful and less interesting. But by far the worst thing about using money as a form of leverage to attract women is the one thing that actually makes it so useful. Is actually the fact that it's a quantifiable form of power. It can be counted and measured, which completely defeats the entire point of having power because it kills the mystery and unpredictability. If people can measure and gauge the power you have, then how powerful are you really? And yeah, you can circumvent by trying to hide stuff and not talking too much about it, sure, but end of the day, the power has a limit. A better, much better form of power by far is status. Status gives you not just better persuasive power, but more importantly, positioning over others. The tricky thing about power is that you cannot have it over someone that is equal to you or higher than you. Status, especially in the minds of others, gives you that much needed higher psychological positioning over them, which means you have the ability to exert your power over them. My sensei at Jiu-Jitsu was the one that taught me this. Position over submission. Basically, if you want to submit someone, it's easier to do it when you already have the positional leverage over them. Status is the ultimate positional leverage. So as far as attracting women goes, status over money, and it's not even close. Now you're probably wondering, if status is so much more powerful than anything else, then why do I teach game? Why don't I turn my entire life's work into just teaching you how to ascend and garner more status? Well, if you think about it, that is what I do. That's what game is for. Game essentially gives you the ability to manipulate your relative status with anyone else at will. You could be, from a societal point of view, on equal footing with a particular woman of your choice. But with game based in evolutionary psychology, you can ascend your status in her eyes. And besides, the way you garner more status in the eyes of others is with your behavioral cues and tendencies anyway, which is what game is all about. So the complete list is game, status, then money. And if you want to work on your game and improve those behavioral cues and tendencies, may I suggest my course, The Interview. It's completely based in the science of hacking the female brain and evolutionary psychology, and it'll teach you everything you need to know about the behavioral cues and tendencies you need to instinctually and unconsciously attract women into your life. You're going to learn the A to Z of taking women from complete strangers to lovers in a way that feels natural to you. If all that sounds good to you, go ahead and hit this link right here. It'll take you to this page. Just find the button that says The Interview and hit that, and then check it out and see if it's right for you. It's been jacethepickupscientist. Do with this information what you must. Oh, and don't forget, October 1st,